Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Annabelle. I'm a registered dietitian and a tobacco treatment specialist with True Health Diagnostics. I just want to welcome you all joining remotely today. I'm glad that you could be here. No matter where you are on your tobacco cessation journey, this presentation today is a great first step. So today's presentation is tackling tobacco. We're going to be exploring that love-hate relationship with tobacco. So this is going to be what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the fact that quitting is hard, it's challenging. What do you dislike? What do you like about using tobacco? What makes tobacco harmful? How tobacco can affect your true health blood work? How the brain and nicotine work together? And then what medications or tools are available to you if you decide to go that route. So first we're going to take a look at this question. So which statement best describes your feelings about quitting tobacco? A, I am listening to this webinar because my provider, spouse, she wants me to. B, I have been thinking about quitting for a long time and would like some more information to decide how I feel about it. C, I have decided to quit and think my quit date will be within the next 30 days. D, I have quit within the last month and I'm trying to stay motivated. And E, I have quit for longer than 6 months and just wanted to refresh my commitment to staying tobacco free. So just want you to think about that one for a minute. So why quit? Let's discuss why you may want to quit. As mentioned before, we know quitting is very hard. It may take time to break free from nicotine. It also may take more than one try to quit for good. Actually the research shows that those who take multiple tries will eventually be successful. The first time may not always go the way we want. It can be very frustrating, but remember, don't give up. It sometimes takes more than one time, and usually it does take more than one time. Smoking may be a big part of your life right now, or using any tobacco product for that matter. It may be a go-to when you're stressed or a habit when you're with friends. Quitting works best when you're prepared. So having, as many resources and tools beforehand can be very beneficial. It's also important to remember everyone is different. So what worked, for one individual or a friend, a family member, may not work for someone else and may not work for you. So it is important to know all the tools that are available to you. So why do you want to quit? So if you have a pen and paper close by, go ahead and take a minute to think about this. You're going to need that pen and paper throughout the presentation, so you can kind of keep that on hand as well. But just want you to jot down a few things here. I encourage you to come back to this question or any of the questions that we may address during the presentation when you have a little bit more time, some quiet time to kind of think about it and respond to these questions. So my reasons to be smoke-free. I'll give you a second to kind of write down a few things there. And again, you can come back to this question and some of the other ones, after the presentation. Everyone has different reasons for quitting. It may be for health reasons. It could be for financial reasons. Maybe a family member is encouraging it. It could just be you want to smell a little bit better. Whatever your reasons are, it is important to spend some time, reflecting on why you want to be tobacco free. So what don't you like about smoking? Could be A, it makes my clothes smell. Could be my family doesn't like it. Could be that it's harmful to my health or it's expensive. It could be all of the above or something that's not even listed here. So these are some reasons that, some things that may have crossed your mind. I'll feel better about myself as a non-smoker. I will breathe better. I'll cough less. I'll have whiter teeth or healthier gums. I will no longer expose my family and friends to secondhand smoke. I will be a better role model and I will have more money. So it could be any of these, and again, it could be some other ones in there. So what keeps you from quitting? So this may seem like an odd question, but there may be things that you really love about smoking or using tobacco products. It's just as important to examine what you love about tobacco. Many times these can actually be the largest barriers and obstacles to quitting. So go ahead and take some time and write down a few reasons here. Some common reasons may be related to the social aspect of it, something done with friends or coworkers during breaks, maybe a stress reliever or something that you just enjoy. And again, I encourage you to come back to this question as well after the presentation. So what happens after you quit? We mentioned things like, more money or maybe smelling better, but let's take a look at some of those physiological aspects. So after you quit, the body can show benefits to quitting in just about 20 minutes. Specifically, after 20 minutes, your heart rate will drop. Nicotine can raise your heart rate and your blood pressure because it is a stimulant. 12 hours after quitting, the carbon monoxide levels in your blood drop to normal, and carbon monoxide is toxic to us. 2 weeks to 3 months after quitting, your risk of a heart attack begins to drop and lung function begins to improve. So you may notice walking upstairs at work may become a little easier. Anywhere from 1 to 9 months after quitting, your coughing or maybe shortness of breath may decrease as well. About a year after quitting, your added risk of coronary heart disease is half that of a smoker. So that is cut in half after about a year. 5 years after quitting, your stroke risk is reduced to that of a non-smoker. 10 years after quitting, your lung cancer death rate is about half that of a smoker. And 15 years after quitting, your risk of coronary heart disease is back to that of a non-smoker, which is huge. Even though 15 years may sound like a long time, or it may not sound like a long time if you've been smoking or using tobacco products for 20 to 30 years, the really important takeaway from this slide is just that you note that the benefits start within just 20 minutes of quitting and they continue on. So what makes the actual tobacco harmful? This may be a concept you've heard before, or this may be something that's new to you. But first, what I just want to clarify and make sure it's understood is it's the 4,000 plus chemicals in that carbon monoxide mentioned earlier that are actually the harmful. The adverse effects from the carbon monoxide and the actual tobacco are what causes the effects, not that actual nicotine that you're getting. Again, there's 4,000 chemicals. Some of them are like arsenic, lead, tar, ashes. These can all harm the body and damage the heart and the lungs. It actually becomes harder to taste and smell things and to fight infections due to these chemicals. So carbon monoxide, it comes from those tobacco fumes. It actually replaces the oxygen in your blood and your heart and your brain and some of the other organs in your body which you need to function. So remember, carbon monoxide is poisonous. Tobacco is really what's in those other chemicals or what's causing the damage, not the nicotine itself. And again, that's important to remember later on when we discuss some of those tools that are available to help quit, which involve nicotine. So I just want to make sure we can kind of differentiate between the two. Dangers of secondhand smoke. So secondhand smoke is the mixture of smoke that's burned from a cigarette and smoke exhaled from a smoker. It also contains those 4,000 chemicals we just mentioned on the previous slide, and then more than 60 proven cancer-causing agents. It can be associated with an increased risk of lung cancer and coronary heart disease. And since young children's lungs, they're still developing, it can increase their risk for SIDS, or that sudden infant death syndrome. It can also increase young kids' risk for asthma, ear infections, bronchitis, and pneumonia. So non-smokers who breathe secondhand smoke may also develop cancer or heart disease, may also get colds and flu more easily due to a decreased immune system. Children may have breathing problems like asthma. They may get more ear infections. Pregnant women may have lower birth weight babies, the same risk as a woman smoker. And we know that lower birth weight babies have increased health risk. So how can tobacco affect your True Health Lab results? We've heard about the link between smoking and lung cancer, but you may not know that smoking and tobacco use can also lead to heart disease. So we're going to take a little bit of look at some of the lab markers that can be affected by tobacco. So tobacco can increase your inflammation and decrease your HDL cholesterol, ApoA1, HDLP, and HDL2C. HDL, which is depicted here at that 25, this is the cholesterol that we want to get higher. The inflammation labs, which are below that myeloperoxidase, that LP-PLA2, that HS-CRP, and fibrinogen are the inflammation labs, which can be increased. So let's look a little bit more closely at the inflammation markers affected by tobacco. So we have myeloperoxidase and LP-PLA2, which are markers of arterial inflammation, so showing inflammation inside and outside of your blood vessels. HS-CRP and fibrinogen are markers of systemic inflammation, which means inflammation that can affect the whole body. So there are many different things that can increase inflammation. Smoking is just one of them, or tobacco use. So just to recap what is affected by tobacco use, the highlighted section here, that HDL and the inflammation markers down below. So remember, HDL is one that we want to be higher. Tobacco use can actually suppress it and keep it lower. And then inflammation, we want to lower, and tobacco use can increase these. So let's look more closely at nicotine in the brain. So inhalation is the quickest way for any drug to reach the brain, and this is why smoking is so addictive. Once nicotine actually enters the lungs, it is quickly absorbed into the bloodstream. Nicotine will reach the brain in just 7 to 10 seconds, so very quickly. It's that combination of the high levels of nicotine due to that inhalation and its quick delivery into the bloodstream that makes it so addictive. Excuse me, I was on the wrong slide there. I'll give you a second to kind of look at this one. So this slide, we're going to take a look at how nicotine actually changes your brain. So the picture shown here is comparing the brain of a smoker to a non-smoker. So the nicotine receptors are those green honeycomb objects, and the nicotine is depicted by the red cylinders. So when you inhale nicotine from a cigarette, you get a quick rush of nicotine, and it fills up those receptors. So here you see the red cylinders, which depict the nicotine, fill up the nicotine receptors, those green honeycomb objects. As you can also see, the smoker has more receptors because the amount of nicotine one receives at one time from a cigarette is so large that the brain has to make more receptors to house all the nicotine. Unfortunately, the nicotine doesn't hang around forever, so eventually the nicotine receptors empty, and that's why when we have cravings come about, that's when those cravings come about and we want to refill them. It's impossible to kill off the receptors and get rid of them once quit and remaining quit. So that's a very good point to remember. So nicotine changes your brain chemistry by changing those receptors, which we just looked at. When those receptors are empty, that's when you feel uncomfortable. So you may have cravings or withdrawal symptoms, and the urge to smoke increases the longer the receptors are empty. Once those receptors are filled again, those symptoms may go away. So you can see how this is a vicious cycle. Also, those receptors can actually remember certain situations or environments. So triggers like having a cup of coffee, or maybe after eating a meal, or driving, talking on the phone. These are some common triggers. Those receptors are screaming, fill me, and those urges increase. So am I ready to quit? This is a really great question to ask yourself. So knowing your options are definitely important. So we're just going to take a look at some of the things that are available to you. These are some different options for quitting. So there's cold turkey, just picking a date and stopping tobacco use on that date. There's over-the-counter medications, which are called nicotine replacement therapy. Sometimes you may hear them termed as NRT. This involves like the nicotine gum, the lozenges, the nicotine patches. There's prescription medications like inhalers, nasal spray, and then there's non-nicotine medications as well. There's counseling, which is great for support. Also, I strongly encourage that along with any of the other treatment approaches. There's quit lines. So every state has a free quit line that's available where you can get additional support, resources, education. This is smokefree.gov, and I'll give you this website at the end of the presentation as well. How do you think you will plan to quit? So we're going to take a look at this question. Do you plan to quit cold turkey? Do you plan to use those nicotine replacement therapies? Will you try to use a prescription medication like Chantix? Will you use counseling or quit line, or will you use a combination of these? And it's okay if this is the first time that you've kind of thought about this question. So ultimately, quitting is your decision. Only you can decide when you want to quit, or when you will quit, or if you'll quit. There's so many factors that influence that decision. So speaking with a tobacco treatment specialist or counselor or quit line can help you discuss if and when you are ready and build a plan around that. There are 3 important questions to ask yourself when getting started. How important is it for you to quit smoking? How confident are you? How ready are you? So we're going to examine these a little bit more closely on this next slide. So we're going to put the questions together. Let me get this pulled up. So looking at the questions on a 1 to 10 scale can really help you assess and kind of narrow down where you are. Go ahead and get out that piece of paper again from earlier, and we're going to jot down some numbers. So first, how important is it for you to quit smoking? So 1 to 10 scale, 0 to 1 being not at all important, 10 being extremely important. How confident are you? Maybe you've been speaking with a tobacco treatment specialist already here at True Health. Maybe you have a quit date, ready to go, plan of action. You're just feeling really confident. Maybe on the other hand, you've tried quitting, several times in the past without success, and maybe your confidence is just not so high right now. So put that on the confidence scale for where you are. And lastly, how ready are you to quit smoking? 0 being not ready at all, or 10 being, I'm ready to go. Let's set that quit date for tomorrow. Another question to kind of think about when you're evaluating your readiness is, do I have the tools or resources needed at this time to quit? Do you have those medications ready? Do you know how to use them, the correct dosage? Do you have a good support group? These are all things that can be helpful with building your confidence for quitting as well. And it's perfectly okay if you feel your numbers are lower than you would like them to be right now. This is going to help show the areas where maybe some more planning or some exploration is needed. Or maybe your numbers were, surprisingly higher than you expected. And you may be realizing you're more ready to take that next step. So some of the pros and cons to quitting may have come up as you were just assessing that readiness, the confidence and importance to you for quitting. So if you remember back in the beginning, I asked about what you liked about smoking and what you didn't like about smoking, or what you liked about tobacco use, or not using tobacco. It's important to kind of look at these things together. It can help you sort out your feelings and help with creating a plan. So let's start at that top left. So good things about smoking or using tobacco products. It could be that, it relieves stress. Could be that it's something that you enjoy doing during break time. So break down a few things there. And then we're going to move to the top right, the not so good things about using tobacco products or smoking. Could be, again, that cost or the smell, or could be something else that you've realized. And then move down to that bottom left, the not so good things about quitting. And this could be several different things too. It may be the fear of gaining weight or the fear of losing friends if it's a social thing that you do. And then lastly, on the bottom right there, the good things about quitting smoking. And this may be, health benefits, saving money, those types of things. All right, and again, you can come back to this, spend some time exploring these questions later on. So there may have been some withdrawal symptoms that could have come up when you were writing down maybe the not so good things about quitting smoking or, tobacco products. So we're going to look into this a little bit more. So we know there's a biological response to nicotine. That's what makes quitting, tobacco so difficult. Almost everyone's going to experience some sort of symptoms of withdrawal when they stop using tobacco products. It's not the same for everyone. Some people may have more severe, some may not be as intense, but it's really rare not to experience something. For many smokers, withdrawal symptoms last for several weeks. But they do become less intense and less frequent over time. Many of the medications that are available are specifically designed to help people manage those cravings. These are some of the things you may feel when you try to quit tobacco. These are actually going to be signs of withdrawal. And you may have experienced some of these before if you've quit in the past. Not everyone experiences the same withdrawal symptoms or to the same extent, but remember, this is completely normal. So the symptoms that you may experience can be, anger, anxiety, constipation, cravings, depression, desire to smoke, difficulty concentrating, difficulty sleeping, fatigue, frustration, hunger, impatience, increased eating, irritability, nausea, nervousness, restlessness, shakiness, and there's other things as well that may not even be listed here that you may experience. So we're going to take a look at this diagram here. Let me make sure. Oops, sorry guys, hold on one sec. All right, there we go. So we're going to take a look at this diagram. The urges or the cravings are depicted by those red spikes, and the withdrawal symptoms are depicted by that yellow curve. And the black line just shows that quit date, so in the front there. So what we see here is that the withdrawal symptoms, so what we looked at on the previous slide, such as that anxiety, the shakiness, hunger, they build up and get stronger over a couple of days to a week or two. But there's good news here. As you can see by that yellow curve, which shows those withdrawal symptoms, they eventually get weaker and weaker. So they do get better over time. So the urges or cravings, as you can see in the picture, are more frequent and stronger in the beginning, While they do lessen over time and become less frequent, unlike the withdrawal symptoms, they will eventually basically go away. Which eventually will go away. The urges can actually pop up 10 years down the road because of those receptors mentioned earlier. They're still present. They do lessen over time and become less frequent, though, which is the big takeaway here. So this is why using the appropriate medication and the appropriate dose is key to help reduce the intensity and the frequency of withdrawal symptoms. We're going to take a look at this graph to help show you that adequate dosing of medication and the importance of that. So the urges and the cravings are in the red spikes again. The withdrawal symptoms are going to be shown with that yellow curve like the other slide. And then here we have the long-acting medications. So this would be something like the patch, which is going to give you a low dose all day of the nicotine. That's shown in that green area. And then we have short-acting medications. So this would be like the gum or the inhaler, the nasal spray. These give quick bursts of nicotine, and that's shown here with those little gray humps. So the little gray humps show where the short-acting medications are key to help at each of those cravings or urges. That nicotine replacement therapy will never satisfy you in the way that smoking a cigarette will or using a tobacco product. However, it will help to curb those feelings and will help give you, kind of an edge when you get those cravings and help keep the cravings at bay. So these are, we're going to take a look at some of the medications that are available. Using the medication along with that behavioral coping strategies and counseling can double your chances of quitting for good. So you may have tried one without the other in the past, so that combination can increase your chance of staying quit, so may be a good option down the road. Medications can increase your comfort and sense of control by reducing the intensity of those nicotine withdrawal symptoms mentioned earlier. So the different medications that are available, there's nicotine replacement therapy. So that's going to include things like the patch, which is that long-acting, so longer, low-dose nicotine. This is over-the-counter. So is the gum and the lozenges. These are also over-the-counter, but the gum and the lozenges are going to be short-acting. So it's going to give you that controlled dose of nicotine. There's also the inhaler, which this you would have to have a prescription for. And then we have oral medications like Zyban or Chantix, and these require a prescription, but they do not contain the nicotine. So kind of after taking a look at some of the different quit techniques, how do you plan to quit? And this is the same question from some of these earlier, so you can kind of take a look and just see if this has changed up at all since going through some of the presentation. And the one thing, again, to point out here, you may have tried a medication in the past, but maybe haven't tried the counseling, that combination therapy. So again, that may be a good approach for down the road. So remember, urges are different from withdrawal. We wanted to just make sure we note that, withdrawal from nicotine. So the urges are your triggers. So that's like talking on the phone, driving in a car, drinking coffee after a meal, celebrations, drinking alcohol, maybe a family argument, what you do when you're stressed, and definitely emotional triggers as well. If you're feeling nervous or bored, angry, lonely, triggers are important to know or understand so that you can create an action plan for it. An example of an action plan is taking a different route, maybe in your car. This is when talking with a counselor or a tobacco treatment specialist can be really helpful because you can talk through some of these triggers and come up with action plans or alternative behaviors together. What is your biggest urge to smoke or use tobacco? So it might have been something that we've already mentioned, something on here, like again, driving in a car, the coffee, eating, stressful situations, or it may be something else. So dealing with urges to smoke. Think and plan ahead, identify those high-risk situations so that you can be prepared for the urges to smoke or use tobacco products in those instances. Um, Prepare for the urge, so walk through, how you'll actually handle that situation. It may sound kind of cheesy, but actually practice it. If you know someone is going to offer you, a cigarette when you go out with them, practice what you're going to say beforehand. That way you have a response, ready to go. Another thing you can do is just change up your routine. Changing up one thing in a routine can trick your brain, and you may forget about the cigarette or the tobacco product. An example, if you're using a cigarette right when you wake up, instead go straight for the shower and take a shower first. Cope with the urge. Coping skills are things you do or tell yourself in order to get your mind off using a tobacco product. So there are behavioral coping skills like going for a walk, or when you're stressed, calling a friend, occupying your hands with something like knitting or crocheting. There's mental coping skills, so reminding yourself the reasons why you want to quit. So any of those lists that you created earlier, you might want to take that and put it on your fridge or put it in your car, next to the phone, next to the coffee pot. Areas that you know that you may have a trigger, keep that handy list of reasons why you want to quit and read through it. So remember, just think ahead, prepare, and you'll be able to cope better. So we're going to take a look at stress and smoking. So what causes stress? There's two major categories here. There's those major life events and there's those daily hassles. Major life events are going to be things like a death, losing a job, an illness, divorce, pregnancy. Then we have those daily hassles, and these are the ones that come up on a day-to-day basis, like financial issues or car troubles, the weather, traffic jams, taking care of children or a parent, or just dealing with difficult people during your day. So kind of take a second, think about your daily hassles. There may be some that come to mind right away. Typically, these are the ones that are more stressful, that if they come to your mind right away. There may be ones that you want to start focusing on for sure. And the daily hassles are where most of our stress comes from. Smoking may be a coping mechanism for you with those daily hassles. So it's really important to think about alternative behaviors and ways to cope outside of using tobacco. It may be physical activity, it may be breathing exercises, writing or journaling, meditation or prayer, or just listening to music may help with some of those stress factors. So again, those daily hassles account for more stress than the major life events. Think about your daily hassles. How do you typically cope? Are there any alternative behaviors? Coming up with strategies to help you cope beforehand can be helpful and prepare you for those daily hassles. These are some examples of how to deal with these daily hassles. Deal with the problem directly. Is it a person you need to speak with? Engage in other activities like exercise, relaxing, music. Talk to your support system, whether it's a counselor, a friend, a family member, a spouse. Spend time with positive people. It really does make a difference. Prioritize and plan. Eat a healthy diet and make sure to get enough sleep. Practice some deep breathing techniques that helps to reduce the heart rate and reduce blood pressure. And think about what helps you reduce stress. This is very individual. It may be something listed here. It may be something else. So deep breathing, why deep breathing? Deep breathing can be done anywhere, which makes it very beneficial. It can be done in your home and in your car. It can be done at work. Just get a few minutes just to yourself is when you can do the deep breathing, and it can help reduce stress. So we're actually going to kind of take a look at what a deep breathing exercise may look like. It actually is important to understand how deep breathing works. It's a skill. It takes some time and it takes some practice. So we're going to practice a little bit right now. So I want you just to close your mouth and relax your shoulders. Now breathe in slowly and deeply through your nose if possible, and we're going to count to 6, allowing your abdomen to expand. Now exhale slowly through your mouth, counting to 6. Every time you exhale, I want you to imagine kind of that tension just leaving your body. So I want you to repeat this one more time. So breathe in slowly and deeply through your nose, counting to 6, and then after you're going to exhale slowly through your mouth, counting to 6. So normally you'd want to repeat this about 3 to 4 times or until you feel more calm. A healthier you. So choosing not to smoke is a good start. Eating healthy and exercise will help to maintain your smoke-free life. So these are just some tips for eating healthy. Eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. You may have heard of eating the rainbow with lots of colors. Choose whole grains over refined and processed foods. Drink lots of water, aiming for 6 to 8 glasses a day. Avoid sugar-sweetened beverages like juice, soda, sweet tea, lemonade. Use the plate planner for healthy meal planning and portion control. So this encourages getting half your plate with non-starchy vegetables like asparagus or broccoli, a fourth of your plate with protein, so like fish or chicken, and then a fourth of your plate with starches or carbohydrates, so whole grain pasta, wild rice, beans, or fruit. Reducing caffeine intake is also important. So after quitting smoking, the effects of caffeine increase. So more shakiness, sleeplessness, headaches, which are similar to those nicotine withdrawal symptoms. And coffee may be a trigger for you as well, so another reason to reduce that caffeine intake. So physical activity is part of creating a healthier you. We know exercise is important to manage and maintain a healthy weight. Many times people worry about gaining weight after quitting smoking, so eating healthy and including that routine physical activity can help with this. But also it actually decreases cravings for tobacco, decreases appetite, and helps cope with stress, so other additional benefits. So we're going to talk a little bit about the quit day and kind of what those next steps may look like. So you do want to set an actual quit date. Your quit date is the first day you will become tobacco free. Having a plan in place is really key. So these are just some examples of what the preparation prior to that quit day may look like. So cleaning out your car if you have tobacco products stored in there. They may serve as a trigger down the road, so you definitely want to get those out. Make plans with your support groups, the things like activities, get out and about. Plan activities and projects, something to occupy yourself and keep you distracted and your mind off tobacco use. Throw away all ashtrays and lighters. Don't keep them around. Get rid of them. Don't let them be temptations. Again, like the ashtrays and the lighters, dispose of all tobacco. Again, don't slide it in a drawer. Get rid of it completely. Toss it. Give it to someone to hide and remove. Make appointments to see your dentist or another healthcare provider. Purchase any medications that may have been recommended for you, or purchase things like the nicotine replacement, patches or gum. You want to have all your tools and medications ready to go prior to that quit date. So during the process, you may actually learn some new things about yourself, or you may learn that there's another activity that you really enjoy doing, or learn some new skills, a new hobby. Make a list though of the things that you're going to do in the weeks right after quitting, just to keep you occupied and keep you busy. So like keep a journal, find a physical activity you enjoy, join a club or a health group, try meditation, some new things that are available. Let others help you. It's important to not go at this alone. It's okay and really encouraged to have a support system. Having that support while quitting, tobacco can actually be very helpful. So this can be a family member, it can be a friend, it can be a support group, an online group or a personal group that you're going to. It may be, your counselor can act as that support person too, but someone outside of just that tobacco treatment specialist. It may be someone you call to distract and just talk to. It could be a walk-in buddy, which is another beneficial one. It's important, share your quit date with your friends, your family. Make sure everyone knows. That way they can help keep you accountable too. You also want to make a list of, the people that you may not feel are going to be very supportive. It's just as important to know who those non-supporters are as knowing who those supporters are. That way, especially during those first beginning weeks when it's the most challenging, it may be limiting the time or exposure you have to those non-supporters. So who's going to be your support group? Is it family member? Is it someone you know who has been successful quitting? Is it a non-smoking friend? Is it a counselor? Is it a support group? So staying quit for good. So how do you stay quit for good? It's important to stay positive. We mentioned earlier quitting is tough. It's not easy. So give yourself credit for all your hard work and feel good about yourself. Remember, no one is perfect. So if you slip up, don't blame yourself. Keep moving forward. It's definitely a process and it takes time. So remember to take, one day at a time. You'll learn from those mistakes and those experiences. So use those to just reevaluate and strengthen your plan for next time. And then commit to staying quit and go at it again. Try not to get discouraged. If you don't succeed the first time, it's perfectly okay. Remember, it takes multiple times for many people to quit for good. The body and mind have to adjust, so give it time and it will start to feel easier with time. It's important to keep your guard up. The brain is powerful and it can remember and associate old behaviors. So certain places, people, events, and smells can trigger those cravings to use tobacco products. So remember those receptors mentioned in the beginning. Use those skills that you have learned, so alternative behaviors, thoughts, use that support system you've created. And then don't forget that smokeless tobacco is not a healthy alternative behavior. Remember those benefits for yourself and for others. So I discussed earlier it may be helpful to keep a piece of paper with you with your reasons written down. These can serve as reminders of what motivates you and why you're quitting. Remember the benefits. It reduces the risk for chronic diseases such as cancer, heart disease, COPD. It can increase oral health, so decreases stains and bad breath, decreases tartar buildup, and protects you from gum disease. Often you will smile more when your teeth are healthier. Reduce the risk associated with secondhand smoke for your family and friends. So let's say you still want to explore this further, or on the other hand, you're ready. You may be wondering, how you get started in those next steps. If you've had your True Health blood work, you can make an appointment with your tobacco treatment specialist today. Just contact Client Services. The number is listed on there at 877-443-5227, and just ask to make an appointment with a tobacco treatment specialist. If you have any further questions as well, you can always email me. My email is listed right there at the bottom, abel@truehealthdiag.com. And there's also plenty of other resources available to you. Listed a few on the slide here. The National Cancer Institute, their website is cancer.gov, and they also have a live helpline. There's becomeanx.org, which is another great resource. Smokefree.gov is where you can look up those quit lines by state, so you can find one in your state. And then there's quitnet.com. And that's the end of today's presentation. Again, if you have any questions, you can send me an email. Also, you can call to schedule an appointment with your tobacco treatment specialist. So thanks everyone for attending today.